Hello team, welcome to another ATP Geopolitics video with myself, Jonathan MS Pearce. This is a Ukraine war news video, the second part thereof for the 13th of October 2025. Military aid video. And we're going to start with the EU allocating 10 million euros for a special tribunal on Russian aggression, and then another 6 million euros to support children abducted by Russia. That was announced by Kaja Kallas, special representative. High Representative for Foreign Diplomacy, I forget her exact title. Anyway, one of the head honchos in the EU, who is a staunch supporter of Ukraine, is in Kiev today announcing this. The bloc is also working on an additional 100 million euro package for backup generators ahead of winter support, indeed, for Ukraine. So that's good news from Kallas. We have also, EU High Representative for Foreign Affairs, her saying the European Union has already mobilized 800 million euros in support of Ukraine this winter. We are working on an extra 100 million for generators, shelters, and cold weather gear. And then we move to Britain, France, and Germany. The E3 moving closer to giving frozen Russian assets to Ukraine. In a statement published by the German government, the E3 leaders said they would do this in cooperation with the USA, quote, to support Ukraine's armed forces and thus bring Russia to the negotiating table. So that is using all of the frozen Russian assets to underwrite a loan rather than just the profits from the frozen Russian assets, therefore mobilizing a lot more money to give to Ukraine. So we move on to the European Parliament urges the EU states to let Ukraine strike military targets across Russia with Western weapons. I've reported this previously. Most EU states allow border strikes, but deeper strikes remain prohibited. Attacks are forcing Ukraine to rely on domestic long-range systems. So just sometimes reminding you of things that have happened that I've already said, but there it is again. During the official visit to Odessa, the Netherlands has pledged another Alkmaar-class minesweeper vessel, and one is already in use. So Commander of the Ukrainian Navy, Oleksiy Nijpapa, met with Dutch Defence Minister Ruben Brekelmans and Commander-in-Chief General Onno Eichelsheim. I think that's hopefully the correct pronunciation. So, okay, let's have a look at these. So Ukraine has received a mine countermeasure vessel, Alkmaar, from the Netherlands. Commander of the Ukrainian Navy has reported. But by the end of the year, Ukrainian defenders expect to receive another such ship. The crew training is already underway. So the ship is equipped with underwater drones, remote control mine disposal systems, and automatic cannon and machine guns. They will have an awful lot of these ships. In fact, this is almost the entirety of their fleet going forward. A whole host of different Minehunters that have been given by the Netherlands, the UK, I think other nations as well. They've got a whole bunch of them. Also, Zelensky has announced that a new important step in our defence cooperation with the Netherlands. Again, today our country signed, or I say today, this is a couple of days back now, a memorandum of understanding concerning co-production of drones. I thank the Netherlands for support. Since the start of the full-scale war, it's already reached nearly $9 billion of assistance. I'm also grateful to their contribution to the PURL initiative. So that's the American provision of weapons if they are bought by bought by anyone really, but the Americans will provide weapons to the PURL initiative, and that's around $600 million from the Dutch. During today's meeting, which was the 10th, with Ruben Brekelmans, we discussed the development of joint drone production, as mentioned, the implementation of the initiative and collaboration with the Netherlands in this area. So that's really good. That's part of the Build with Ukraine initiative, where there is localized production both in Ukraine and indeed in whichever country is taking part. So both sides agreed on next steps to launch joint production and accelerate delivery of domestically produced weapons. Moving on to Japan. So Japan has provided financial, humanitarian and other aid to Ukraine, pledging more than $12 billion since March 2022. That's an awful lot of money. Now, Japan is a pretty big economy, but we haven't heard a lot about what Japan has done. So I'd like to see the breakdown of that. Its aid focuses on non-lethal supplies such as bulletproof vests, food and medicine. In addition to hosting thousands of Ukrainian refugees, it also includes the delivery of more than 100 light transport vehicles. Technological aid is also included, though it is kept more secret. So yeah, I would like to know how accurate that $12 billion is. I should go and look at the Ukraine aid tracker from the Kiel Institute. Right, there is this Bloomberg article the other day had, it's only a short reference to this, and it comes from the end of the article talking about what Pollard, who is, I think, a defence minister from the UK, said. UK plans other projects with Ukraine, including the production of glide bombs, according to Pollard. Quote, "We're starting with drones for obvious reasons," he said, "but in general, Ukraine is an essential partner for us in terms of the technologies we need to deter and rearm Europe." So the UK might well be helping Ukraine out with the production of guided glide bombs. Yes, that's needed. The French are providing a number of those every month. The AASM Hammer guided glide bombs. The Americans are providing a bunch and have done. I don't know what the continued provision of those looks like. The GBU, different variants, 38, 62, whatever. And then you have the Ukrainian-owned indigenously made ones that we hear are beyond now the test period, but I don't know what the production numbers are and whether they are definitely using them on a regular basis. But it is great that the UK will be helping to develop and produce guided glide bombs for the Ukrainians. Now, I talked to you the other day about quite a lot of kit going from Italy. Someone on my thread, an Italian, was saying these really aren't that good. They're from the 90s, and there is that element. I guess it's like, well, would you rather have these Centauros or, I don't know, using an SUV? Now, I know it's arguably not, you're not going to be using these to do the job of the SUV or vice versa. But even if it is just to move troops from A to B, but also have the joy of having a pretty sizable 105mm gun, these are going to be more useful than SUVs, right? So I don't know. It's a difficult one, this, where people claim that, hey, hang on, these are really old bits of kit. Don't get too excited that Ukraine is going to receive quite a number of these. But then M113s are as well, and they've been really, really well used, I'd say. They're not ideal. The armor isn't good enough on the M113s, but they have been really appreciated, well used by the Ukrainians. Now, Thomas Tyner says Italy has equipped the first 2 cavalry squadrons with the Centauro 2 tank destroyers this summer. So the new updated variant, or not even variant, it's kind of the new iteration, and sent both squadrons of Centauro 1 directly to Ukraine. So he's saying 231, because I reported the other day we weren't quite sure how many Centauro 1s would be sent. We had a better idea of some of the other vehicles that Italy is sending, and there are quite a few of these vehicles going, not all the different ones I was talking about. 231 additional Centauro 1 will also go to Ukraine. Wow. So those are the B1s that are operational going to Ukraine. There you go. Then we move on to Igor Sushko saying Ukraine will receive at least a dozen Skyranger 35. So I talked about these the other day. That's basically the Oreklion. It's probably incorrect pronunciation. The heavy duty turret that can shoot an awful lot of lead into the air, take out these drones and even possibly cruise missiles and whatnot. There's a modular version of them called the Skynex. The Skyranger is this on a Leopard 1, the old tank platform. It's a mobile air defense cannon from Germany, giving the per unit cost of these is around $12 to $15 million of kit. So the systems are highly effective at shooting down drones in particular. As you can see there, fires pretty rapidly and is seemingly a pretty decent at taking down those sorts of drones. I don't know what the range is on that actually, given that some of those Shaheds are flying sort of 4 kilometers up in the air. But nonetheless, that's excellent. At least a dozen of those would be really, really appreciated. I don't know what the time frame on that, though, is. Now, the French company Thales has developed and delivered to Ukraine a batch of new 17mm laser-guided rockets. I reported this the other day. Just a bit of addition to this coming from the war zone. They have a specialized fragmentation warhead and radio-controlled fuse designed specially to counter drones. According to the company, when detonated, the new warhead disperses thousands of steel balls, creating a destructive cloud approximately 24 meters in diameter, while the rocket's maximum effective range is up to 3 kilometers, so not got the biggest range, but these can be fired, I think, from helicopters as well, so it'd be really useful, but also, I guess, from the ground. Thales is already ramping up production of these munitions at its plant in Herstal, where it plans to produce approximately 3,500 rockets by the end of the year and 10,000 per year in 2026. That would be super useful. I mean, all of this stuff needs to come online for the Ukrainians, and rapidly so. They need as much help as they can get against these blasted Shaheds that are the scourge of the skies at the moment. Now, the Ministries of Defense of Ukraine and Germany have signed a partnership agreement on digitalization. The new agreement is designed for 2026 to 2028 and provides for cooperation in a number of key areas there. In particular, it concerns support for the Army Plus and Reserve Plus applications. So these are the apps that Ukraine uses so effectively to mobilize and whatnot. Scaling and development of the Delta combat system. That's the live video feed battle organization system that they so effectively use, and they're trying to roll that, well, they're trying to sell that back to NATO because it's so effective. So doing a deal with the Germans looks to take this kind of element of their digitalization within the military domain and, I guess, scale it. Expanding the digital ecosystem and generally strengthen cyber defense. So that's good news there for both, I guess, Germany and Ukraine. Now, the UK, as mentioned, has delivered hundreds of air defense missiles. These are the LMM light multi-role missiles. 5 months early, and raised an annual support of £4.5 billion per year, the highest since February 2022. So our government at the moment is getting right good pasting from people on Twitter interminably, generally, but that's spilling over into the general public. There are lots of people thinking it's the worst government on earth, but actually, you know, the stats are waiting lists are down, and for the NHS, and actually help for Ukraine is pretty decent. We're expediting stuff. It's at the highest level since February 2022. Acceleration comes as Russia steps up massive aerial attacks targeting Ukraine's energy infrastructure ahead of winter. So, you know, good news that the UK is seemingly stepping up. And here we can see it's working in other ways, such as localization of manufacturing. UK and Ukraine have signed an agreement on the joint production of artillery, according to Dennis Schmihal. Last year, BAE Systems, British Aerospace Engineering Systems, expressed its willingness to produce 105mm L119 howitzers in Ukraine, so the same size gun as that Centauro 1. UK had previously resumed production of barrels for these howitzers. There was that announcement at the Forge Masters in Sheffield. We started making barrels again, and I actually thought the L119 was being made in Ukraine already. So I'm not quite sure what's going on. I had heard that we had localized production in Ukraine. But then I haven't really seen many of these howitzers on the front lines. These are going to be shorter range howitzers. But anyway, I guess they are going to start to make them. Now we're going to go to the US, where they're all over the place with regards to Tomahawks. Trump, according to Zelensky, he had said back 3 days ago, Trump can give Ukraine some of the things we talked about. In 2026, we in the EU will reach a level of production of artillery shells equal to that of Russia. The US transfers important data for all systems, the Patriot, NASAMS and RST. On the sidelines of the EU, there's also talk of changing the rules for making decisions to circumvent the opposition of Hungary, and so on and so forth. So anyway, a range of things said, but a lot of talk about the Tomahawk cruise missiles. It is on a knife edge at the moment. I did a video on that, or a segment on this, where Trump announced that he might go back to Russia to speak to Russia about, you know, what their thoughts are. I don't know. Russia should play no part in the decision about whether Ukraine receive Tomahawks. I think they should receive them, and that's that. There have been a promise that they will only use them to strike military targets within well, actually, we don't know where, but they will only strike military targets. So I guess that means hydrocarbons depots and refining facilities are going to be off the agenda if they do get Tomahawks. But I don't know whether that spills over into the military-industrial complex sort of realm where they can hit manufacturing facilities of weapons. I would have thought that would be the case. Otherwise, what's really the point of having Tomahawks to strike deep into Russia? What are you going to hit? Because they aren't going to have troop and military accumulations there, particularly maybe some depots, air bases. President Trump spoke Saturday with President Zelensky, and they discussed the possibility of the Tomahawks going, but it is still all up in the air at the moment as Trump is kind of dithering and looking to bring Russia into the discussion. So Zelensky now says Trump has not yet made up a decision on supplying Tomahawks. We are working on it, and I'm waiting for his decision. So frustrating there. Now, here Visioner talks about Ukraine's Firepoint company. Let's have a look at what he says in summing up what's going on there. It seems that Ukraine's missile program is already moving to the final stage, as evidenced by the statements of Firepoint, the company that produces Flamingo-type winged missiles. They do the FP1, the FP2, the FP5. Those are the ones we know about. Makes you wonder what the FP3 and 4 are, and then is there anything above 5? Well, we will find out in the near future what stage the development of FP7 and FP9 type ballistic missiles is at. The FP1 type long-range kamikaze drone is the cheapest in its class, while also being the most effective. So they're the ones that it looks like the FP1s and FP2s are different variants of the same missile. We were talking about this the other day, not missile, drone. Looks like the Lyuti, but without the landing gear. And I couldn't work out whether the FP1 is a smaller version of the FP2 or whether they're the same frame, but one has a much larger range but much smaller warhead. Whether it's the same frame, make the same frame and say, right, this one has a much bigger fuel tank, but it means that you're going to squeeze the warhead into being much smaller. And then the near range 200 kilometer variant has 105 kilogram warhead, so it's got a much bigger warhead, but it can only go 200 kilometers. I'm unsure as to whether they use the same frame. It would make sense if they do. The FP1 type long range kamikaze drone is the cheapest in its class. Reaching Moscow is very, very difficult, but possible. Firepoint is actively working on this. There's a massive air defense ring that must be overcome. Flamingo is currently the best winged missile in the world in terms of range and warhead mass. Of course, that's got a 1,150 kilogram warhead, so that's pretty sizable. The main problem in projects like Flamingo is that we do not know in advance what type of radio electronic jamming environment they will have to operate in. Another important detail is that the missile is made of composite material, which makes it much less visible on radars than aluminium missiles. Currently, 2 to 3 missiles are produced per day. The production volume will be as much as we order. The missile is made based on local components, which has rapidly increased production, and many other details are used, most of which will not be made public. So I've already talked about this before, about getting cheap turbofan engines that don't have much life left in them, and using those, so second-hand engines really. But then after that, they're going to be having to make them. So I don't know what the stock is exactly for the number they have there. But anyway, a little bit more information from Firepoint there. And Euromide Press report that a Ukrainian drone startup has raised $17.9 million from US investors to let one operator control 20 plus drones simultaneously. Swarmer's AI, artificial intelligence, has already run 82,000 combat missions, proving the technology works before scaling production. That is going to be something to look out for. And then finally for this video, onto Russian subjects here. Now, North Korea has received Russian assistance in developing submarines, according to the South Korean defense minister. North Korea stated that it was developing submarines capable of launching ballistic missiles that had already test launched such missiles from submerged platforms. That is what North Korea getting for providing Russia with who knows how many troops, who knows how many workers, and an awful lot of artillery, ammunition, weapons and vehicles and all sorts. And finally, Russia has begun secretly purchasing lasers from South Africa for installation on kamikaze drones, according to the Moscow Times. South Africa is baffled as to how products intended for civilian use ended up on kamikaze drones and blames unscrupulous buyers. Of course, this is going to happen. Laser rangefinders from several countries, including South Africa, have been discovered on long-range Harpier A1 drones, a modification of the Iranian Shahed. And that brings us to the end of today's military aid video. Hopefully that was of use and informative for you. Take care, and I'll speak to you soon. Toodle pips.